Shabbat Shalom, everyone. We'll begin our service on page 10 with Yedid Nefesh. Yedid Nefesh Avarakaman, Yedid Nefesh Avarakaman.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shalom.
Nice to see you all. I was with some of your kids at camp last week, and now I'm with some of their parents here tonight. It's nice to be back. I got a lot of very early in the week questions of how's camp, and I said it's great. It's hot as always, and the air conditioning at home is the best air conditioning you can ever find. So it's nice to be back in that. For those of you who are new to our community at Touro Synagogue, whether it's your first time or only one of your few times, please know if you need anything, our ushers and our greeters will be happy to help you out. If you need restrooms or water or anything, they're right down the hallway here. And where you came in is also where we can exit, should we need to exit at any time during the service. This week has been sort of like a summer week, like all, which is moments that seem to just never end, and then a week that flies by, seemingly without any explanation. So I'd like to ask everybody to just take a few moments right now to deeply breathe and to think about, perhaps, if you'd like, where you were at the end of Shabbat last week, as the sun was going down on Saturday, and to think about what Sunday and Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday and hopefully the downward roll towards this moment of Shabbat on Thursday and all day today, what that brought to your life, what kind of ups and downs, what kind of things you were frustrated by, what kind of things you were really heartened by. And to keep all of that in mind as we remember that Shabbat is this divinely mandated period of time when we get to reflect and rest and reset, because it's all waiting for us again on the other side of it. And that is something to really revel in and to be joyful about. So to bring in this Shabbat as our holy reset, it's our honor to invite up our lovely family members, Lauren and David Greenberg, to help us light candles and then to say Kiddush. The blessings are on pages 2 and 3.
Shanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlikner shel Shabbat.
Amen. And Kiddush can be found on page 5. We'll ask Lauren and David to come on over here with us, and everyone else to please rise.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava u'vratzon hinchilanu zikaron lema'aseh bereshit ki hu yom techilah lemikra'e kodesh zecher litziat mitzrayim kivanu v'chata ve'otanu kidashta mikol hamim v'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava u'b'ratzon inchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh ha-Shabbat. Amen.
You can be seated.
We welcome in Shabbat with psalms and songs, beginning page 12, Lechu Neranana. Come, let's sing. Lechu Neranana l'Adonai, Nariya letzor yishenu, Nekadma fanav betodah, Bizmirot nariya lo, Shiru ladonai, Shir kadash, Shiru ladonai koharet, Shiru ladonai barku shemo, Basru miyom leyom Yeshuato, Zapru bakoyim kevodo mekohamim niblotav ki gadol Adonai hulam meod norahu al kol Elohim yai rai rai Page 20, Lechado D, will sing verses 1, 2, 5, and 9. Lechado D, likrat kala, pene Shabbat nekapela. Lechado D, likrat kala, pene Shabbat nekapela. Shamot zakot v'tibor echad hishmiyadu el hameyukad Adonai echad Shemo echad l'shem bo tiferet le'likila le'echado likrat kala pene Shabbat nekapela. Lechado likrat kala pene Shabbat nekapela. Likrat Shabbat lekovenecha ki mekor haberaka merosh mikedem nesuka zov maaseh b'machshava tefila. Lechado likrat kala pene Shabbat nekapela. Lechado likrat kala pene Shabbat nekapela. Verse 5. Hitoreri kiva orech komi ori shidaberi kevod Adonai alayik nigla. Lechado likrat kala pene Shabbat nekapela. Lechado likrat kala pene Shabbat nekapela. Verse 9. Bohi v'shalom ateret bala gam besimcha utzolatoch emunei am segula. Bohi kala lechado likrat kala pene Shabbat nekapela. Lechado likrat kala pene Shabbat nekapela.
You can be seated. This is the time, even in the quote-unquote the thin months, when there's not a lot of our kiddos here with us, we would like to invite up any of our littlest ones. If you're not to your B'nai Mitzvah yet, even if you're in somebody's arms, a big person can carry you. We'd love to invite up our littlest ones for a special Shabbat blessing. Yeah, come on up. Come on up. All right. Whether you've had a lot of, hey David, come on up. Whether you've had lots and lots of really high moments of your week, or maybe you had to learn how to grow through some really low moments, that's life. And luckily, there's a lot of people who are there to help you out. And luckily, Shabbat is that time when we get to reset and do it all again. So Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Yivarechecha Adonai ve'yishmerecha ken yehi ratzon yaher Adonai panav elecha תיכונך כן יהי רצון יישא אדוני פניו אליך וישם לך שלום. כן יהי רצון.
And for any of y'all's families, we don't have babysitting available, but there are some baggies outside with some activities if you need something to do that you can't find in the prayer book. It's got a lot, but it doesn't have everything.
The next edition of Mishkan Tefillah might include crayons, though. We'll see.
That'd be funny. We'll work on that. We'll continue with our service on page 28 and the following pages with Baruch Hu. Please rise. We remain standing and continue on page 30 in English at the bottom of the page. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being, skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully alters the time and changes the seasons, and arranges the stars in their heavenly courses according to plan. You are creator of day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light, transforming day into night and distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Tsevaot is your name. Ever-living God, may you reign continually over us into eternity. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on the evening. Baruch atah Adonai, Hamari Varavim. Page 33. Wisdom and wonder, passion and instruction, story and symbol, all these things your Torah gives to us. And the more we devote ourselves to it, the more it grows and gives. Together, what could be a truer token of your abiding love than this holiest of your works and the living language that gives it form?
Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed.
You can be seated. Page 36.
Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha ve'hayu ha'devarim ha'ele asher anochi metzavecha hayom al levavecha meshinantam levanecha v'dibarta b'ham b'shivtecha b'veitecha uv'leftecha b'derech uv'shokbecha uv'kumecha וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בעיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
Sing the song of men and women joined in understanding and respect, the song of God's miracles, an earth protected and cherished, a gift for our children and the generations to come, the song of a land once ravished by war, now quiet and content, her soldiers home to leave no more, the song of a world redeemed, the song of peace. Page 40 from Yichamocha.
Adonai et Yaakov, ugalo miad chazak mimenu, Baruch atah Adonai, Ga Yisrael.
A very quick story from my time at Jacob's Camp last week. One of the oldest unit kids, Chalutsimers, who are entering 10th grade, came rushing up to me on Friday night after services. I'd been there for a week. I know, that's okay, yeah. That's what they all said when I was talking during services too, actually, at camp. They're just on their own. One of the girls came rushing up to me and she was like, have you ever read this prayer before? And without even thinking, I was like, I guarantee I have. Like, I guarantee I know this prayer. And she pointed out the prayer, which we can find on the top of page 43, which is one of these blessings for peace, sort of. But really, it's the peace that comes through finding a community of what we call in Hebrew translated as good companions, and about finding those who you walk through the world with. And if you've spent time at Jacob's Camp, or really any Jewish summer camp, or in your home synagogue, or here at Touro Synagogue, you might know exactly what that feels like, to find a community of people who you can call in all moments good companions, people who show up in moments of happiness to celebrate and moments of joy to support you. And those kids found it early on in their lives, and that is quite a blessing, and it's worthy of reading this now. So at the top of page 43, we'll read together. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up waiting to do your will. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom, aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim. Page 44.
Yismechu b'malchutecha, shomerei Shabbat v'korei onei, hamekadeshei sevi כולם ישבעו ויתענגו מטובך והשביעי רצית בו וקידשתו חמדת ימים אותו קראת זכר למעשה בראשית זכר למעשה בראשית.
Prayer invites God's presence to suffuse our spirits and God's will to prevail in our lives. Prayer may not bring water to parched fields, nor mend a broken bridge, nor rebuild a ruined city. But prayer can and does water an arid soul and mend a broken heart and rebuild a weakened will. Page 46 and following, we rise, all those who are able, for the Amidah.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak v'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel v'Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora El Elyon Gomel chasadim tovim, vekonei hakol, vezocher chasdei avot ve'imahot, umevi geula livnei v'neihem, leman shemo be'ahava, melech ozer u'moshia u'magen, baruch atah Adonai, magen Avraham ve'ezrat Sarah, atah gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayeh hakol atarav lehoshia, morid ha'atal, mechalkel chayim bechesed, mechayeh hakol berachamim rabim, somech noflim verofech olim, umatir asurim, umekayem emunato, Lishenei afar, michamocha bal gevurot, umido melach, Melech me'mit u'mechayeh, u'matzmiach Yeshua, v'ne'eman ata l'chayot hakol. Baruch ata Adonai, mechayeh hakol. Ata kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kadoshim b'chol yom yalalucha selah. Baruch ata Adonai, ha'el hakadosh.
You can be seated. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day, and may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat. We bless you, O God, for this day of Shabbat. Take a few moments now for Tefillat Halev, the prayers of our own hearts.
Imre fivegon libi, lefanecha Adonai, lefanecha Adonai, Adonai tzuri vekoli, Adonai tzuri vekoli. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable to you, be acceptable to you. Adonai, my rock and my redeemer. Adonai, my rock and redeemer.
Page 253, we take just a moment now to keep in mind and to call back to mind those in our lives, in our families, in our circles, in our hearts who are in a state of incompleteness, whether it is of their body or of their spirit or of their mind. We keep them in mind, in our mind's eye, the version of them that we know is possible and the one that we love the most. And we offer these words of healing. Mishaberach avotenu v'imotenu Abraham, Yitzchak v'Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, v'Leah, hu yivarech et hacholim. May the one who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebekah, Rachel, and Leah, bless and heal those who are ill. And if you would like, right now, I invite you to whisper any names. May the Blessed Holy One be filled with compassion for their health to be restored and their strength to be revived. May God swiftly send them a complete renewal of body and of spirit, and to that let us all say, Amen. Shabbat Shalom again to you all. As I said, I spent last week up at Jacob's Camp in Utica, Mississippi. I wasn't able to be there on the first day of the session, but I was there for most of opening week of second session. And that means that not only were all of these kids reconnecting and reuniting with each other and their counselors, but their counselors were fresh off of a couple of days of sleep. So it was a lovely, lovely week for all of us. That first week is really, the whole time at Jacob's Camp is something magical, but that first week is really actually something to behold. You always know kind of which kid you're talking to, but their face doesn't look exactly the same, and they all really want to reconnect with everybody, but they don't want to seem like too eager. And so it's like a balance. It's a whole weird teenage like balance of like all of that stuff. And good luck to all of you who have one at home. So seeing them try new things, sign up for activities, and like explore new options, it's really something wonderful, because suddenly, as opposed to last summer, they're willing this year to try climbing that ropes course, or to sit on the blob, which is this half-inflated huge balloon in the lake, and then somebody else jumps and bops you into the lake. It's like really fun, and some kids don't want to do it last summer, and they want to this summer. And my favorite first week activity at Jacob's Camp is actually a game that I developed with my colleague and my dear friend and our former community member, for some of you, your daughter-in-law, Rabbi Lexi Erdheim. She and I used to play a game the first week of camp called T-Rex, and it goes like this. Just like dinosaurs, those kids' vision is based on movement. So if you sit near them and just don't move or make a noise, they will talk about everything, and because they don't remember that you or anybody else is in their orbit. And they say everything. And especially, the only thing that we really ever had, that Lexi and I ever really had a rule that we would turn around and address somebody saying was, obviously, if there was physical danger or something really egregious, or if there were some like bad language being used, because nobody needs that at camp. And that happened this week. I was sitting at the staff table, which is like right smack in the middle, except I was facing away, and some kid just let go one of those 4-letter bombs, and I just turned around with a look, and and one of his cabin mates was like, and he turned around, and we just had this look, and then he was like, sorry. And then this other kid was like, it wasn't me. And I was like, I know, I saw exactly who it was, right? And it's all about, it's another version of trying things out. You're in a very safe but slightly different place that's cordoned off, and there are structures that help make sure you stay safe and healthy, and yet you have a little bit more freedom to say, perhaps, try out some of those words that you don't usually use at school or at home. And you all know what words I'm talking about. I think most of us have this idea of what constitutes in our society a bad word. And I'm putting that in quotes because this is all about bad words. We know what bad words are because some of us have carefully and quietly and deliberately studied the response from other people when they've been said around us. And some of us have memories of detention or consequences from trying them out ourselves. And it's something that you don't try around your parents or your teachers or your rabbis until you do, right? If you don't have a sense of the kind of words I'm talking about, your homework, says the rabbi, is to go home and find some George Carlin on YouTube and to refresh yourself. Because he famously reminded us, or really codified for us, a helpful list of the 7 words you don't say on television, which I'm going to recite right now. No, I'm just kidding. No. I'm not going to say them right now, but you can find them. And a cursory, no pun intended, was the only word I could find that fit that. A cursory look at that list of words that George Carlin 50 years ago told us were this like list of things you just don't say. They all have something actually really interesting in common. They all have to do with human bodies. And I'll say this delicately, things you might do with them, right? Things that human bodies might do, or parts of the human body itself. We have, coming to us from some point in the past, somebody else's standards of morality that are dictating to us what is right or what is wrong, what is good or what is bad to say. and somehow received into, really just until recently, we've received this idea that the worst thing, the most immoral thing that you could say has to do with your body. But that's not always the way that it's been. There is a great book written by a really, really brilliant professor named Dr. John McWhorter. Some of you might recognize his name from the New York Times. He's a frequent opinion columnist. He is a professor of American Studies, Music, and Linguistics at Columbia. And about 3 years ago, he wrote a book called 9 Nasty Words, which follows this through line, this historical through line of where do bad words come from? Where in society, not where in society, but how did they become the bad words of society at certain times? Because bad words, what we would call bad words, are not the same in every single time period, like I said. They don't even tend to originate from the same place. Dr. McWhorter points out that here and now, in the 21st century, with so much social progress and societal evolution having taken place in just the last 2 decades, to say nothing of 50 years, a child or a teenager who says one of those 7 words is still definitely going to attract attention and probably some punishment. But it would pale in comparison, he writes, if they chose to use one of the newest versions of bad words, which are slurs against people's race, religion, gender, or sexual orientation. He tells us, what's more, he writes, is that those words were not even, sorry, I just lost my place here. So what he's saying is that there is this switch somehow in the last 20 years, what we thought of as the pinnacle of immorality in our words, in our word choices, has shifted somehow. You could not watch TV in the 90s and hear, before 10 p.m. certainly, somebody say even, oh, damn. And now, it's like practically on Nickelodeon, right? So what's more, he says, yeah, exactly, yeah. It's a great channel. It's yeah, great. But he points out that those bodily related immoral words, those bad words, those aren't even the original bad words that we've learned about historically. He points to evidence that shows literature and documents from the Middle Ages, from pre-Renaissance period, and even from religious texts like Tanakh, like the Jewish Bible, that reference openly parts of the body. It's not exactly encouraged to do so, but it was not as forbidden as it is up in modern times. Far worse, he says, than the F word, the S word, the A word, or any of those other words, was to invoke God, namely, to swear an oath or to make a promise in God's name that you didn't intend to fulfill, or to curse somebody and to threaten their life, their livelihood. That is why we call those words curses and swears. I know, right? It was like I was wide awake when I read that sentence in his book. It's also why exclamations like "to hell with it," or again, to say, "oh, damn it," those barely register as controversial these days, but at one point were seen as just about the most taboo thing you might say. Why am I bringing this up here at Shabbat? Because this week's Parsha actually has something to say about swears and curses. Parshat Balak, this week's Torah portion, tells the story of some of our Israelite ancestors' enemies, the Moabites and the Midianites, who call on a non-Israelite named Balaam, a prophet, a diviner, sort of a catch-all sorcerer. And they want to hire him to place a curse on the Israelites because they see how numerous they are, and they worry that they might usurp political power, military power, certainly resources in the desert. Balaam at first only promises that he will do as God, that is, the God of Israel, commands. And God instructs him to disregard the Moabites and Midianites. And God says to Balaam, "You must not curse these people, the Israelites, for they are blessed." The Moabites and the Midianites try again. They try to persuade him to take the job, and after the second request, God says, "Okay, you can go with them, but you cannot speak curses about them. You can only offer blessings." So Balaam goes with them, And he's actually gearing up to fulfill this request that they've hired him for. But first, he has to maneuver his talking donkey past an invisible angel in the road. That's actually in the Torah portion. I'm not making it up. It's not a kid version, certainly not. You should read it. So the moment confuses him, of course, but it also clearly is a reminder, a verbal reminder from the angel of God's instruction to only offer blessings and not curses. And so atop a cliff, overlooking a portion of the Israelite population, Balaam does just that. He opens his mouth and comes out with a blessing instead of a curse, while his employers are standing right there expecting him to do the opposite. And they are understandably miffed. But like every great literary foil, they just think they might as well try again. So they ask him one final time, help us in our quest to sabotage this people. And it is in response to that Balaam climbs to yet another mountaintop, and he opens up his mouth and offers perhaps the most well-known Jewish proclamation up until that point. Ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov, mishkanotecha Yisrael. How lovely are your tents, O Jacob, your dwelling places, O Israel. So once more, a blessing. Once more, not a trace of a curse, just as God has commanded. Parshat Balak resonates differently, at least with me, than especially in the last few years and months, and frankly, especially in the last week. There is something about the power of curses, whether they are from that period of time or this one. Even colloquial curses, the ones that don't really have any religious or literal intention behind them. But there's something about all of them that taps into a really deep emotional place that we humans desperately want to mine and express really, really hard things that we're feeling. Dr. McWhorter points out that when we stub our toe on a bed frame, or when we bang our keppies on an open kitchen cabinet, and we burst forth with our favorite four-letter words, we do not literally expect the embodiment of that four-letter word to show up right here next to us. Suddenly, something you didn't want on the floor is on the floor, or suddenly, nothing. That doesn't actually happen. The word itself does not mean the literal thing it represents. It is just something that we can't help. It's an emotional eruption that we need to let go forth. And he says, as such, similarly, we don't typically mean, in the literal sense, to place a biblical curse on someone when we tell them to go to hell. We don't mean it. But those words still fulfill something that we need, each of us, at a human level in that moment. It is some kind of release of anxiety and frustration or disgust or even just physical pain. And it's that fulfillment of letting that hard stuff out that I think is really critically important for all of us to focus on right now, especially in a world where just about anyone can say just about anything to someone else anywhere in the world at a given moment. In building a global society where we're all blessed to be connected, we've also inadvertently made cursing other people into an even more thoughtless act than it was before. No longer do we have to take a deep breath and consider carefully the words that we use to address anyone in front of us, because in front of us might mean through the computer screen in front of us. It might mean someone halfway around the world. It might mean someone we've never met, and therefore someone we don't have to worry about interacting with as soon as we say it. And when things and when relationships get that impersonal, the words we use with them and towards them do too. And that can lead us to some really scary and undesirable circumstances. For years, all of us, I think, have been horrified when we see in other parts of the world political differences manifest in violence. And it almost always originates not as acts of aggression, but as thoughtless accusations or curses against that person, which are easy to dismiss. But a week ago in this country, that chicken came home to roost. And I hope to God that I speak for every member of our community when I condemn those kind of horrific acts, regardless of where you might be on the political spectrum. So we need to do something about expressing ourselves. maybe not through curses and those words. And Parshat Balak gives us the answer, which is to bless that which is worthy instead. In the moment when we can open our mouths and curse the one that we despise, instead, we should look, teaches God, to look instead at what is good and righteous and elevate it. Imagine what would happen if every voter in this country said to their preferred candidate, I'm with you, but I don't want to hear you beat the other person down and just lay curses on them. I want to hear you elevate what is right, and I want you to share visions of how that will elevate all of us. Imagine if we held our candidates and our leaders accountable only for pointing out others' shortcomings when they frame it in a way that leads to uplifting everyone else. Much like Balaam, in the end, warned Midian and Moab of their downfalls, embedded within a blessing for the people of Israel. Imagine if we stopped cursing so much. Pick your favorite curse and just stop doing it, and instead did a little bit more digging to mine the blessings from our hearts that live right next door to it instead. Imagine if we did that. Shabbat Shalom.
We turn to page 282 and rise for Aleinu. Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol, latet gedula leotze breshit, shelo asanu kigoye haratzot, velo samanu k'mishpechot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkeinu kahem, v'gor aleinu kechoham honam, va'anachnu korhim, umishtachavim umodim, Lifnei melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu v'nehemar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yehi Adonai echad u'shemo U'shemo echad.
You can be seated. During these months of Summer Union, it is our honor, of course, to read the names not only of our yahrzeit and memorial list here at Touro, but also for our sister congregations, Temple Sinai and Congregation Gates of Prayer. If there are any mispronunciations, please do not be shy about correcting me if you would like. We tried very hard to make sure that we get everybody's name said as it should be. And at the end, if there are any names that are not included that you'd like to add, we invite you to do so. Our custom here at Touro is that if you do hear a name with whom you're linked in family, in friendship, in love of any kind, when you hear their name called, you are welcome if you'd like to rise so that we can recognize you for a moment before we all recite the blessing together. From Congregation Gates of Prayer, we call to mind these names, those who died at this time in years past: Gary D. Allen, Albert Benjamin, Aaron Campbell, Florence B. Cohn, Peggy Levy Cohn, Osias Diamond, Max Dulitz, Chester S. Falk, Jules Felix, Gilda Finkelstein, Fanny Katz Finkelstein, Esther Friedenberg, Lupu Granite, David Ari Krasenstein, Rachel Ruth Himmler Lashover, Augusta R. Leopold, Henrietta Feitel Levy, Elise Littman, Dr. Jerry Meldon, Lee Meltzer, Joseph Moss, Mathilde Heller Moss, Aline Price, Sylvia Copeland Pulitzer, Beulah Pulitzer, Molly Barton Roig, Julia S. Roseman, Harold Rosenzweig, Isaac Irving Salomon, Norman Sams, Rabbi Morris Sessler, Rabbi Nathaniel S. Scher, Dr. Mervyn Tatar, Fanny Stone Weber. From Temple Sinai, we observe a period of Shloshim, the first 30 days, following the deaths of Doward Bronson and Leslie Madfis Gold. and these names who we call for Yahrzeit, who died at this time in years past: Edward Berg, Edward Bernstein, Florence Kahn Blum, Peggy Cohn, Barbara Fisher, Julia Mittel-Flom, Bertha T. Hyman, Sidney Hyman, Shirley Herstein, Judith Kahn Israel, Clifford H. Kern, Victor N. Kalminsky, Jeanette M. Kornman, Moses Meyer, Sidney C. Mimelis, Molly Barton Roig, Charles Rosen II, Ermina Levy Sayer, Simon Schlenker Jr., Harry Soboloff, Nathan Walfish, Sophie A. Weiner. From Touro Synagogue, we mourn the recent death of Dennis Markovitz, who will be laid to rest after Shabbat. We observe this period of Shloshim, the first 30 days following the deaths of Joan Dean Bain, Charles Marks Altmont, Michael Brown, Sheila R. Fenton, and Addie Davis, and call these names who died at this time in years past: Raoul J. Adler, Teal Friedman Bennett, Rosemary Levy Bear, Eugene J. Bernstein, Mamie Burnett, Donna Louise Cohen, Audie Cross, Charles Chaskell Dean, Maurice Feingertz, Madeline L. Goldberg, Bertha Goldsmith Good, Lester Lowell Green, Tanya R. Grishman, Hattie Mayer Hartson, Leo Heyman, Marion E. Hochstein, Toba Siegel Jacobs, Dr. Morel H. Kaplan, Alfred J. Kaufman, Louis Coleman, Adolph Jules Levy, Aaron Frank Marcus, Sarah Newman Maslansky, Sylvia Copeland Pulitzer, Esther Adler Seidenbach, Harold Singer, Monroe Title, Dr. Morris Jacob Weisler, and Cantor Murray Bernard Yavna. If there are any other names, as my eyes and my hand pass around, please be welcome to call them out loud or to hold them in your hearts. Zichronam livracha, may their lives and memories always be for a blessing. Page 294, we rise and recite together. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, be'alma divrach hirutei b'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon uvyomechon, u'v'chaye dechol beit Yisrael, ba'gala u'vizman kari v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevarach le'olam u'lalmei almaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitalev v'yithalal shemei dekudesha b'rechu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tush bechata v'nechemata da'miran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav Hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us and to all of Israel, to which we say amen. You can be seated. Very happy to have with us, as usual, our congregational president, Dr. Laura Levy, for some Shabbat announcements. Dr.
Thank you. Thank you, Rabbi. Shabbat Shalom. Welcome all. Welcome to our sister congregations. It's so lovely to worship together with Congregation Gates of Prayer and Temple Sinai. Special welcome to Rabbi Daniel Sherman. We're so glad you're here with us. Thank you. Thank you to our friends Megan Yellen and Chris Lorenzen, who were standing outside the gate greeting us when we came in tonight, making sure all is as it should be for our Shabbat worship. And Naomi Yavna Close and Lisa Santopadre, who greeted us when we came in the door. Thank you. Our lovely Shabbat pulpit flowers tonight are the gift of Kathy and Hal Shepard, given in memory of Esther Adler Seidenbach, and the gift of Tamara Kreinen and Rosalind Hinton, in memory of Dennis Markowitz. I think most of you know, Touro congregants know, that we have a wonderful new program called the Ambassador Program, thanks to the able leadership of Julie Kottman. And if you are a Touro ambassador, please stand so we can recognize you, see who you are, so you'll know who to go and talk to. Oh, good. Lots of ambassadors here tonight. Thank you all. So if you are a new member or a guest at Touro Synagogue, even a longtime member, feel free to find one of these ambassadors or myself and ask us any questions you might have. Allow us to greet you. We'd love to greet you in person. Thank you. Shabbat morning Kaddish tomorrow begins at 11 a.m. on Zoom. You can find the link in your congregational email to join. Touro continues to collect non-perishable food items for distribution to Second Harvest. Remember that donations can be dropped off right outside these doors in the Shushan Assembly Monday through Friday from 9 to 5. There are bins for their collection. We also continue our glass recycling here at Touro. We forgot to bring ours again. Don't follow our model. You have to remember to bring it. But if you can remember to bring it, which is a terrific thing, there is a bin for collecting it outside the doors here. Touro Synagogue has collected 7,000 pounds of glass, over 13,000 bottles, since we began doing this a couple of years ago. It's just really great work. I encourage you to participate. So I've been talking about a couple of Tikkun Olam activities, and I want to let you know that our Tikkun Olam committee, under the leadership of Chris Lorenzen and Erica Zucker, I think Chris is here. There's Chris, so you know who he is. I don't think Erica's here tonight. To offer a number of new and reimagined opportunities for all of us at Touro to participate in social justice work. For example, we are reinvigorating our Combating Hunger initiative. We're appointing a steering committee who will consider a lot of questions and plans this year. In particular, they'll start with what our garden might look like going forward after we reopen the building. Some of you know that we cannot rehang the vertical garden because the contractor has told us that it is damaging the masonry. Yeah, it's distressing. So they're going to repair the masonry as part of the ongoing construction project, but we have to reimagine that garden and think of a different approach. So the steering committee will work on this. They will also work on how to address opportunities to prepare food for people in need. There are a number of opportunities for that around the city that we can participate in. And continue our ongoing work with Second Harvest. So there's ample opportunity for engagement at all levels. Chris Lorenzen will chair that steering committee. Feel free to share your ideas with him. He will welcome them. Tikkun Olam committee is working on many other avenues of service. I'm really encouraging you to participate at whatever level level of interest you have in these things. For example, we're still working on the ongoing reproductive justice project with the National Council of Jewish Women, working on a strong voter registration and Get Out the Vote initiative with Together New Orleans, and on the development of a climate action plan for Touro Synagogue. This is a year-long project under the leadership of Penny Freistadt and Larry Gottfried. So there are many opportunities for your participation, and you're most welcome. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Speaking of one more Tikkun Olam project, a couple of months ago, our Tasty teens, you should know that Tasty stands for Touro and Sinai Temple Youth. I didn't mean that in any other adjective way. Our youth group from Temple Sinai and Touro put together a lot of go bags for those who might be outside asking for money or asking for any sort of support, whether unhoused or not. We found a little box of some of those that we didn't realize were still upstairs in the teen lounge. So they're outside on the wicker basket, in a big wicker basket. If you're interested in taking a couple for your car and handing them out, there's some bottles of water, some personal hygiene items, just little things. It won't change the world, but it's not our job to complete the work. We just can't step back from taking part in it. So please make sure that you grab those if you would like. And we will close with
Adon Olam, page 321.
Please rise.
Adon Hashem Allah, b'terem kol yitzir nivra, lehet nasa v'chepzo kol, azai melech shmo yikra, ve'acharei kichlot hakol, levado yimloch nora, ve'hu haya ve'hu hoveh, ve'hu yiyeh b'tifara. Adon Olam Hashem Allah, b'terem kol yitzir nivra, lehet nasa v'chepzo kol, azai melech shmo yikra, ve'hu echad ve'ein sheni, lehamshilo lehachbira, ve'li reshit ve'li tachlit, ve'lo ha'oz ve'hamizrah. Adon Olam Hashem Allah, b'terem kol yitzir nivra, lehet nasa v'chepzo kol, azai melech shmo yikra, ve'hu eli v'chai goli, v'tzur kavli v'eitzara, ve'hu nisi humanos li, menat kosi v'yom ekra. Adon Olam Hashem Allah, b'terem kol yitzir nivra, lehet nasa v'chepzo kol, azai melech shmo yikra, be'yado avkid ruchi, ve'ektishan le'ayira, ve'im ruchi geviati, Adonai li v'lo yira. Adon Olam Hashem Allah, b'terem kol yitzir nivra, lehet nasa v'chepzo kol, azai melech shmo yikra. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
Amen. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Hard to say.